Today we are going to talk about why waterfall to agile transformation fails. Let's see what are some of the reasons that why enterprises adopting agile are unable to succeed. So company culture too old, resistance to change. This is a big transformation wherein people should change their mindset, company culture, because waterfall and agile are two different methodology in place. If we want a successful agile transformation, then company's culture also should change. And generally it is seen a lot of resistance to change at a company level, at a culture level. That's the reason most of this fails. There are unrealistic expectations from agile, that agile can change the world in 1 month, 1 week. It takes time. It takes time for company culture to change, takes time to everyone to realize value of agile. So those, we should not have unrealistic expectations from agile that something will change overnight. Comfortable with old methodology. People are comfortable with what they know. They don't want to change. So if there is too much comfortability with the old methodology, it is directly linked to the resistance to change. Inadequate experience with agile. People just know something about agile and they think that no, it can be done. No, agile cannot be done that way. Just by listening to some of the conversations or a coffee conversation, you cannot become agile experience. And that's where company think that no, they know, or company associates think that they have adequate experience. But most of the time it's seen because of the inadequate experience with agile, this transformation also fails. Lack of agile training before starting agile transformation. This is one of the key takeaway for everyone, that if we need to have a successful agile transition from waterfall, the training should be given across the enterprise, starting from senior leadership to the team. So basically, it's kind of preparation work before that agile transformation work, because otherwise, just by listening to, as I said earlier, just by listening to some of the coffee conversations, people think that I know agile. And similarly, on the similar ground, it's not only for the team. Some company thinks that if team, scrum masters, and let's say up to product owner, if they are trained for agile, then this agile transformation will work. No, it's a change in culture. Change in the culture comes from leadership team. That's the reason it's highly recommended that leadership teams should be trained on agile first, and followed by all the business stakeholders, product stakeholders, complete IT team, because it's a transformation at the enterprise level. So everybody in the enterprise should be trained for that. Lack of trust and transparency. It has been seen that no, the agile model can only work then when all the five values of agile, whether it's commitment, courage, focus, trust, respect, transparency, and openness, everything should work together. So it is leaders' responsibility to make sure that the trust is inculcated in the team. There is absolute transparency. People are ready to be absolute transparent during this agile journey. So if this doesn't happen, then because of, even if you are trained well for agile, even if everybody in the organization is trained, even if company has started changing the culture, until and unless there is a eager to be trusting each other, or is the environment should be created for the trust, and the 100% transparency, and people are able to ready to be transparent during this process, it will not work. Lack of top level executive support. Sometimes we have seen that either this journey starts at the ground level, wherein the top lead level executive support is not there. And sometimes it can come because of the CXOs want to do the agile transformation and everybody do not have a buy-in. So either it's a lack of top level executive support sometimes. And if we have the top level executive supports like CXOs and all, then the leadership team under them, they just take it as an initiative of, since CXO has said that, so we'll have to do this. But until unless there is a eager, there are people understand, what are the values of the agile, what is the value at the end of the day they are going to get at a complete organization level? This bound to fail. So it has been years and years of the journey wherein people believe that command and control in the waterfall model, going after people, micromanage your project managers in place, command and control will always yield good results. So that's where I talked about the company culture needs to be changed, because it's about servant leadership. It's about leaders to be able to lead and collaborate. It's not that everybody should on the ground should be adding some value in the agile transformation. It's not that only team will do the agile transformation and leaders will be there to just command and control the team. Leadership not fully convinced about agile implementation. This has been seen that no, if either it's basically at a high level executive decision to do the transformation, and the leadership under them is not fully convinced about it. If everybody from the leadership team is not fully convinced, then they would not support this transformation the way it should be supported. So especially starting from CXOs to the leadership team, including SVPs, VPs, director, everybody should be convinced and they should brainstorm together before starting this agile journey, whether we have our buy-in, whether we are convinced, whether we are a part of game, whether we are ready to be trained ourselves before we start this transformation journey. Lack of involvement of the architecture team. Sometimes companies think that even if leadership is convinced and the team on the ground is working, architecture team buy-ins is not taken. And if the architecture team is not involved through the agile transformation, it has been seen that no failures happen because of that. Because it's important that how architecture will be important to understand that how architecture will be evolved over a period of time in agile transformation. This is something that companies have not done. Companies have always been in culture of creating the complete architecture first, to have a complete architecture vision before we start the project. But in the product implementation in agile, it doesn't work that way. The architecture also evolves with the journey of agile within the enterprise, so it's important that architecture team needs to be involved during this agile transformation. So-called project managers, program managers, portfolio managers who were there in the waterfall model, they always have a fear about losing their job. So I think that proper training should be given. There are ways wherein these so-called project managers or the management team can be converted into some of the roles in the agile, so that that fear of insecurity of the job can go away. Otherwise, these are the stakeholders who would not add value, and the fear of insecurity would stop them to be a part of the agile team. So there are ways wherein these project managers can be trained and can be converted into the roles of the agile, which can add value to the team. Now, as I have talked about this, right, even if we try to convert these so-called project managers into the roles like, let's say, for example, Scrum Master, so they should also be trained well to act as a servant leader. As I have talked about earlier, the command and control model, this is a mindset change wherein command and control model should be changed to collaboration model, should be changed to lead the model. These project managers should be able to roll up their sleeve and to act as either scrum masters, product owners, or whatever role they are willing to do. To basically, they should be able to add value on the ground. So they should be able to adapt a servant leadership style in place of just being a boss. The other thing that we have observed is that it takes time. It will not change overnight. It takes time to change everyone's mindset from waterfall to agile. What would happen is, even if they come with some of the resistance, when people start seeing value of agile, that no a product increment is coming every sprint, everybody is participating in the reviews and providing the feedback, people are taking that feedback constructively. Nobody is cautioning why this, why that. When there is a team collaboration, this will show the impact, but it will take some time. And until unless everybody see that no, what is the value that Agile is saying, we should not have a high expectation of the Agile that something will change overnight. Some of the companies, there is a hesitation that no, they have started agile transformation earlier, but it didn't work. So why should we start now? If the agile transformation works earlier and if it falls in any of the challenges, then we can easily assume that no, why it failed earlier. And if we are appraised of what challenges can be faced, and if we review all these challenges and watch this video to understand that no, these are the challenges listed in the agile transformation, waterfall to agile transformation, and if because of some of these challenges it doesn't work, people should be ready to adopt this and make sure that these challenges are not coming this time. It is important to have a, if this is an enterprise agile transformation, it's very important that you should have an agile enterprise agile coach who should have authority to talk to people, who should have authority to train the people, who should also have authority to talk to leadership team, train them, talk to them, brainstorming session, so that he can answer all the questions. People have a lot of questions in their mind about hesitation to change, and somebody should be there to answer all the questions collaboratively, so that people start realizing that the person who is talking should also have the experience of the agile. He should be able to talk about the previous experiences, or if one such question is asked, he should be able to provide references from his previous agile implementation that know how these kinds of questions were addressed and how these values, because more than words, people want to see that on ground, that how did it work actually, if this happens then what happens. So an experienced enterprise agile coach should be there within the enterprise, or a set of agile coach should be there to train the organization to answer their questions so that hesitation can go away. Sometimes we have seen that silos implementation as a project level for the agile is done. So just by implementing agile in some or all the projects in the enterprise may not work until and unless there is a connection between all these projects. So connection in the sense that silos implementation of agile would not yield an enterprise level result. If there are enterprise level objectives, they should be broken down into the portfolio level objectives, program level objectives, and team level objectives. For that, we want organization to work together. There should not be a silo implementation of the project. Lack of involvement. People think that no, if we will involve the IT technology team, and if they are doing agile, that is agile at enterprise level, which is a wrong interpretation. Until unless the business teams, product teams, everyone is involved and trained for the value of agile, because it's a collaborative ownership, as I've talked about earlier, that everyone should contribute in agile, and we have place for everyone in the enterprise to contribute at an enterprise level or at a product level. And it's also equally important that sprint demos which are conducted, it's not only just for product owner and the team. The business team or the stakeholders should attend those demos so that the feedback can be collected immediately. It should not be seen that no, we are doing agile, team is doing sprint demos, but the business team or the stakeholders who is actually going to be using that product or selling that product to the end customer, they are seeing the product after 6 months. If that is happening, that means they are not participating in the sprint demo. Their feedback will be collected later. Then the fast implementation of Agile, which is one of the benefit of Agile, will go away. Absence of product roadmap. So until unless a product roadmap is available, we don't know what needs to be done. It's a saying that if something is there on the product roadmap, it may get done. If product roadmap is not there, or if the stories or features or epics related to the work is not there on the product roadmap, if something is not there, it will never get done. So it's highly important that after engaging product owners, uh, program management team, all the leaders, business owners, a product roadmap is created. And product roadmap, it's a living document. It may change over a period of time. People should be trained that no, things will change. So whatever we know as of now, should we start developing in a sprint, and it's just a 2 to 4 week sprint. So if something goes wrong, if the product is not implemented the way business wanted to see, it's a faster feedback during the sprint demos, and we can go ahead and change that in next 2 weeks, which is one sprint again. Unavailability of the dedicated product owner for required sprint ceremonies. So because of one product owner handling multiple products, he is not available for these sprint ceremonies. And there are specific roles for all these product owners. Why and how they add all the values for all these sprint ceremonies or some of the sprint ceremonies. For example, sprint demos, if product owner is not there, team is doing what they are doing, and if somebody is not seeing what they have done, there is no feedback coming back to team. And the value of agile is that you provide me a feedback within 2 weeks, and if you see that no, it's not implemented the way that you wanted to see, I'll go ahead and change that in the next sprint. So again, within 2 weeks, I can show you the feedback implemented. So a product owner, if he is there in the team, it is seen that he is basically going through several products and he doesn't have time. Product owner should have time for his team for all the ceremonies to answer their questions, to be able to understand their concerns related to domain and functionality, and to be able to explain them the domain and functionality. That is where some of the organization fails to adopt the journey of the agile transformation. Absence of agreement on DOR and DOD, because generally what happens in a waterfall model, I have given you this requirement during the UAD phase, it's being discussed, no, I did not understand it right, or you did not understand it right, you have not implemented the way I said. There are finger pointing. To avoid that, Agile promotes the DOR, definition of ready, and definition of done. I'll be talking about that details of those in the next videos, but just to give information to everyone, definition of ready is a handshake between the product owner and business owner, product owner slash business owner, and the development team. That when would those stories be taken in the sprint? Some of the examples can be the definition of ready is that when the story is written clearly, acceptance written criteria is defined clearly, the story is understood by the development team. Similarly, definition of done is a handshake on the basis of which a product owner will accept these stories. So it's a handshake between product owner and development team that if there are no severity 1, severity 2 issues, the acceptance criteria are all met, unit testing done, etc., etc., and etc. So basically, it's a handshake between the business slash product and the technology team, that on what basis the input of the sprint, which is basically based on the DOR, and the output of the sprint, which is based on the DOD, will be agreed upon, so that there are no finger pointings later. So it's an agreement between the teams as a handshake for the input and output of the sprint. Poorly executed scrum ceremonies. Untrained scrum masters, because scrum masters are responsible for executing scrum ceremonies, and even a trained scrum master cannot execute a well-defined ceremony unless the complete team is trained and understand the value of those ceremonies. So it's equally important that everybody in the team or everybody in the enterprise understand the value of these scrum ceremonies and start executing them efficiently, so that we get absolute value of the agile. We have seen in the past that wherein the ceremony is not executed properly, people are not realizing the value of those ceremonies, and then because of that, if it is throughout the organization, that these enterprise agile transformation bound to fail. Clear product vision not established. So until unless we know that, what's the reason, what is the ROI of this project? If we are spending so much, then what are we going to get? And then ROI, again, basically I'll be talking about MVP later, but basically absence of a clear product vision, not only to the product owner or business team, but also to the development team, is is one of the cause wherein if team do not understand, why are they creating this product, what is the end value that we are going to give to customer. Because in the waterfall model, they are just given some development work to do. Why are they developing it? Tag it to the objective, tag it to the product vision, and make team understand that what is the work that they are doing today would contribute to the larger goal of the product vision. Once they understand that, they will feel that know how they are adding value to the overall organization. So that is something needs to be done as a part of the agile transformation. Determination and agreement on the sprint velocity in the initial phase is always a big challenge. People should be able to understand that sprint velocity is just not what estimation or the schedule that we used to adopt in the waterfall. It it will, I mean, also because the teams is being formed, they are starting to work in the agile for the first time. It's not only for the team, but also for the leadership to understand that the sprint velocity, how do we finalize sprint velocity? Finalize means at least come to an agreement in the initial phase. So you cannot have a good sprint velocity in the first sprint. So idea is that you take 3, 4, 5 sprints, see that how team is working on and how this velocity is coming up, and take an average of these first 3 or 4 sprints to see that what is the velocity of the team. So understanding of the velocity in the initial phase is a key ingredient to the success of agile transformation. There are teams who are distributed across the geography. So I'm talking about distributed agile team. It is important to understand, though we talk about face-to-face communication in Agile, but we can't deny the fact that the product development can happen throughout the geography. Team can be located throughout the geography. So it is important that teams should be trained and understand that how this Agile model will work across the distributed Agile team. That is one of the major parameter wherein face-to-face communication is fine, but what about the rest of the teams who are located across the geography? How would this work for them? How would they be engaged? How would they understand the value of agile? How would they collaborate together? So all these factors we need to think while starting the transformation. So I've talked about product roadmap not available. What we have seen is that product roadmap, if available, is not prioritized. So it's like if we don't come up with that 20/80 rule, wherein 20% of the requirements in the product roadmap will run 80% of your business. So it is important that we prioritize our product roadmap and understand what are those 20% of the business functionality which is going to drive my 80% of the business. Idea is after prioritizing that, we start taking those priority work first. So even if we'll have to spend 20% effort, we'll be able to get 80% results, but it can only be done when we have a highly organized, highly collaborated agile team who can keep, and this is where business owner and product owners should be involved, because they are the one who knows the priorities, or basically analytics team can be involved based on the prior experience, that what are some of the flows which would be used majority of the time. It's not 100% of application is used by the customer. We always know that what are those 20% of the flows which are majorly used by the customer, so that we start developing that first. Lack of understanding of the product increment. So we don't know. Sometimes these questions are asked that okay, after every sprint, will we go to production? What is a product increment? How does it add value to the business? So a proper understanding of this, and training across that, it will be released to production when it makes sense to the product owner. But for that, product owner needs to be trained. Product owner should understand, what is the value of the product increment. Not only the product owner, the development team should understand how they are making that project bigger day by day or sprint by sprint. So that is where the value can be maximized. So for the prioritized roadmap and the understanding of the product increment, and also I'll be talking about a continuous delivery pipeline, are the three ingredients for maximizing the value early in the game. So organization and the enterprise needs to understand that in order to produce more value of the agile. Lack of understanding of the MVP, minimum viable product. Minimum viable product is also linked to the prioritization and the product increment, because you may be producing a product increment every sprint. If it is not getting released to production, if there is not a strategy carved out for what is a minimum viable product, it may happen that a minimum viable product can constitute the work of 3 or 4 sprints, but it needs to we need to have a strategy carved out, that what is it minimum viable product with which you can go to production with limited features. So these are some of the things should be discussed upfront in the enterprise before we start agile transformation. Because once we understand what is MVP, we may have 10 different MVPs released across the year, but they should be released up to production to maximize value early in the game. Some of the cases seen that product owner, so-called, it's a body placed in the team who is not the final decision maker of the product. That is where the organization failed, that the product owner has to rely on decisions for somebody else. Somebody else in this management team or executive team is making the decision. And if product owner is not the decision maker or not the final decision maker for the product, how would he answer some of the questions which will arise from development team? Development team will ask that the body of the product owner which is placed in the team, and then he will further go and ask somebody else because he is not the final decision maker. He will not be able to carve out a strategy for MVP. He would not be able to prioritize the product roadmap himself. He would not be able to give feedback on the product increment. So suggestion here is that the product owner should be one person who have final authority or a final decision maker of the product. He is absolute owner of the product and the product roadmap. In the case of contracting model, it is still seen that now everything is working in agile, but we are still living in the old world of writing the SOW in the waterfall model, where there are service level agreements. Service level agreement, the way it was written in the waterfall, or a fixed price scope, it doesn't work that way. If we are talking about the collaboration, then the contracts also needs to be renegotiated, also needs to be understood or well written in the agile way, so that the team implementing the product implementation should not feel pressure of the the SOW written in an old language, or pressure of the SLAs, or pressure of the schedule, timeline, cost. Then agile contract is something that needs to be understood by the sourcing team as well as the executive leadership from both the sides, so that these contracts can be renegotiated or rewritten in the agile way. I've talked about that no implementation of the silos implementation of the agile at project level. It basically, PI planning is the one of the ceremonies which connects the enterprise together, so that we are no more working silos in the project. Everybody understand that whatever I am producing, how it will be used by somebody else or somebody else team. So what we have seen is, even if we have trained associates or their enterprise for the PI planning, it is taken as the waste of everybody's time, because what we are asking is that everybody across agile release train, and it may be 150 members or 75 to 150 members attending these 2 days PI planning. So people start calculating the cost, that 150 members attending the training for 2 days, it's 300 PDs of effort. How much money are we investing? So I mean, the everyone should be trained. The money invested is worth, because it will give you an output for 1 quarter. Everybody is aligned. Project are not working in silos. They understand, what are the dependencies across the product, and they'll be able to generate a good business outcome at the enterprise level if it's done well. Too much focus on productivity. Questions asked about 6 hours versus 8 hours of productivity. This should go away. There is a reason that we talk about 6 hours of productivity, which can be explained later in one of my videos. But I think people should come out of, should be trained that, what is that 6 hours of productivity we are talking about, and what is it all about, so that there should not be micromanagement around, I want 8 hours of productivity. Agile doesn't work that way. Lack of continuous delivery pipeline, I've talked about it. Even if you have created the best product in the world, even if you have a prioritized product roadmap available, even if you are creating the product increment every sprint, even if you have an MVP strategy in place, if you don't have a continuous delivery pipeline, even though you are running faster in the agile, but in order to either test it, in order to deploy it, if you don't have the continuous delivery pipeline, then there are delays added to release the product to the customer, which is not the agile way of working. So agile should be integrated well with the CI/CD pipeline and the DevOps strategy to produce faster results to the customer. Lack of agile values, this is something comes from training, as well as, basically people start realizing that after some time of implementation of agile, that everybody should respect each other. And there are no roles, right? There are no senior junior, there is no project manager or reporting to someone. Everybody is adding some value. So commitment, focus, courage, respect, and openness are some of the agile values which needs to be adopted by everyone in the enterprise. Some of the cases, I've talked about these project program managers. The fear of losing the hold on the project. Actually, there is no hold on the project. Everybody works together. When we live in a world of servant leadership, that hold word goes away. We add value. We try to clear impediments. We try to clear the obstacles in front of our team as servant leaders. So once we come in that mindset, the fear of losing a fold should go away. But this is one of the factor which becomes a problem for a successful agile transformation in the companies. Too many open questions. Questions will come either during grooming or during TSUs, sprint reviews. If there are questions, people should be responsible. I mean, Scrum Master is the one, who should be taking those impediments and try to find out ways across the enterprise to resolve the question in place of delegating to each other. So everybody should understand their role and commitment so that they don't run away or they don't delegate those open issues to someone else. People should have courage to own those issues and try to take it forward for the betterment of the team, for adding the value on the ground. Initial culture, what we've seen is that no team is used to working in that waterfall model. There, in their development is going on for months and months and years of years. No, it will team will hesitate a little bit during the first few sprints. That why do I need to show my work every 2 weeks to the higher management? Everybody is involved, and people may start creating an image of me, a perception about me. So that is the reason the servant leaders across the organization, they need to train the team, and they should protect their team, that nobody is going to make an impression out of it. Let's try to show whatever we have done, and if we have feedback, there are no blame games. If there is a feedback, there is always a feedback, constructive feedback. People have given that, no, I don't like it this way, I want it to be this way. So agile welcome changes. So we'll take the feedback, we'll just implement it in the next sprint. So that is where we need to remove that fear of hesitation of the team, wherein they don't want to show their work every 2 to 4 sprints. Lack of team collaboration. There is no senior or junior QA or dev or architect or API team or UI team. There are no silos like that. There is only three roles. There are only three roles: product owner, scrum masters, and team. Development team consists of everyone. So there is no senior junior, there is no architect, there is no nothing like that. No, I'm an architect, I am senior, I am a senior person, I'm a senior tech lead. No, you are a QA, I am a developer. All these kind of silos should be removed if you want to have a successful agile transformation. I will also talk about, till now I have talked about the challenges. I'll also talk about the new choices for the agile. It's hard to implement. Old habit doesn't go away so easily. So people should understand, enterprise should understand these new choices and old habits, that if we are planning to take new choices, that old habits which die hard should go away. So I've seen some of the things that even if Agile is implemented, there is continuous ask for status reports. Agile shows transparency. Why status reports? I mean, of course, at some levels, limited status reports would be produced, but the status, what is a status? What is the work that you're doing? Within 2 weeks, I'm asking everyone to come and attend the sprint review, wherein I'm showing what work needs to be done. So what else is needed as a status report? The people should be trained that no, even if you are adopting agile, you should not be dependent on the old ways of living. That wherein I want to understand, give me the status report on a daily basis or send me the so multiple level of status reports floating will not add value to the product. It will basically be, that is where the lean agile mindset comes into picture. Everybody should be thinking about the work that I am getting done, work I am doing. Is it a waste or is it adding value to the product increment? Is there a way that we can reduce this, or is there a way that no, it can be done in a better manner? Resource utilization is questioned. I've seen people asking about, is your resources 100% utilized? That is where we should rely on these sprint ceremonies. That yes, in the sprint planning, we are talking about the available sprint capacity. We are talking about 6 hours of productivity that is being visible to everyone. So if this is being transparent to everyone, why are these questions about resource utilization? So when resource utilization is a question, then people do not feel like a team. They do not feel like collaborating together. So this kind of mindset, which is basically asked in the waterfall model, should go away. Too many meetings. Outside sprint ceremonies, if meeting needs to happen, there should only be limited meetings. Why there is always a dependency on the meeting? Sometimes we have seen that most of the team is in the meeting for 80% of the times. lean agile mindset do not support that. When we talk about 6 hours of productivity, we talk about 6 hours of dedicated productivity wherein people on the ground, the team working on the ground should not be disturbed or called into the meeting. So that's the reason sprint ceremonies are carved out. That for 2 hours of a day, you do whatever you want to do as part of sprint ceremonies. Yes, there would be limited meetings required outside that, but it should not be that no most of the people day is going into the meeting. This is one of the major concern across the organization, wherein people are getting burned. They have to attend all the meetings for 4 or 5 hours, and after that, it is expected for them to have the productivity of 6 hours. So if we can't give a work-life balance back to the team, we can't we can't gain their trust. So basically, walk the talk. If we talk about that, no trust, transparency, respect, openness, courage, and commitment, then we should eliminate these kind of things wherein we are asking team to attend all the meetings for 4 or 5 hours and then asking them to go back and work for 6 hours. No, work-life balance should be given to the team so that when they come to the work next day, they are excited to work for us. Estimates are questioned. Although sprint planning is a ceremony wherein transparent communication about estimates happens, but those people or executives sometimes who are not attending the sprint planning, they are questioning the estimate that on what basis you have given this estimate, this can be done better. They should not be questioned because estimates are relative in a sprint, and everybody should be trained that let's give away the old habits. Team has come up with the estimates together in a transparent communication with everyone, then those should be honored. Micromanagement to increase productivity. There is a pressure to increase velocity. We cannot increase the velocity but just by micromanaging the team or by pressurizing the team. This needs to be understood by all the servant leader across the enterprise. That velocity can only be increased when you have a high performing team. It's not by pressurizing them, it's not by micromanaging them, it's not by asking them on a daily basis that no what has been done. If team feel empowered, if team feel that no I'm doing something for the product vision which will add value, productivity slash velocity will increase by default. But there is no need to push the team for increasing the velocity, which is being seen that no now when enterprise learn the agile implementation, agile way of living, then they always see that no what can be done next. So let's try to increase the velocity of the team. Executive team cannot increase the velocity of the team, it's team itself. So basically, we should try to make that team as a high performing team in place of pressurizing them to increase the velocity. Sprint goal is taken as a commitment. So I think lack of training again, I would say people think that a sprint goal once discussed in the sprint planning is a commitment. And then I've seen people questioning at the end of the sprint or during the sprint review that you have committed for the sprint goal, why you have not completed that? So sprint goal is not a commitment. It's rather a forecast that no, this is what I'll try. I will try my best to meet this forecast with a sprint goal. And then during sprint review or during the sprint, transparency is given to everyone during the daily stand-ups that these are the impediments I'm facing. This is where this impediment will impact this part of the story, and this story will impact this part of the sprint goal. So transparency can be given, but it should not be taken as a commitment, and teams should be held accountable that you have committed for the sprint goal, why you have not completed that. That is where these old habits should go away. Pressure to include work in the middle of the sprint. Old habits again that no, if it's coming from the executive team, then that work should be done immediately because it's coming from a top boss. This doesn't happen in agile. It's just a matter of 2 weeks. The scrum master should be empowered enough to talk to executive for that and coach them for that. That is just a matter of 2 weeks. That other than exceptions, that no, we should not include work in the middle of week. What would happen that no, if this is delayed for 2 weeks? So basically again, and it should not be that no because top executive or the boss have told that so we'll have to include that, so old habit should go away. Expectation to produce extensive document. Yes, we are working agile, everything is fine, but I was fine as an example of status report earlier, but I trust more on the documentation. So agile promotes documentation. Agile says minimal documentation whenever required as per the lean agile mindset should be produced, but it should not be exhaustive documentation because somebody else is comfortable with the old way of having so much documentation. Or It can be either because of lack of trust or any of the values. So it's always related, right? People should be trained across for that. Too many approval processes. Team is a decision maker along with the product team for all the approvals in the team. And we have seen that, if organizations have adopted Agile, there are so many approval processes across the organization. So that should be reduced in order to build the CI/CD pipeline flawless. If you have 10 approvals, 10 level of approval, how would we able to push our product increment throughout all the environments faster if you have 12 approvals or 10 approvals or 5 approvals at all levels? So yes, approvals are there, but this should be minimal enough so that the business is not impacted severely because of something going in the production without getting approved. But it should not be that 12 levels of approval for all the changes that we are doing, because this is the old way of doing it, that unless I approve or stamp on the paper, this should not move forward. This mentality should be changed. Custom metrics being built to track the project. There are metrics in the agile, which I'll talk about in one of the later videos. But people start making custom metrics to please their bosses. This should not be done, because if that basically uh, deviates the purpose of the agile, the limited purpose of the agile, with the product increment being visible metrics. There are limited metrics which are produced as a result of agile. We should not start building custom metrics to just please someone else. Expectations to always commit to a schedule. There is no schedule. As I talked about it, sprint goal is also not a commitment, it's a forecast. So everybody should understand. Once we understand, we start adding value in place of asking questions. Why commitment was not done, why sprint goal was not done, why schedule was not met. Anyway, at the end of 2 weeks, you are going to see the results, and not only the results, you are going to also see in the sprint review. And I'll be having a separate video about that. But in the sprint review, you are also going to hear the reasons what happened and why happened, what did we try to do, how did we try to resolve the blockers, etc. Well, that is all I have about this video. Thank you for your time.